Hey everyone, welcome to the SCB Steelers Inside Blitz, our short form podcast here that I try to do every Tuesday night, I think. We're about 48 hours out from the start of the NFL draft, and obviously, for many of us, it feels like it's been a really, really long winter and spring getting to this moment. Other times, it feels like it's gone kind of fast. If you're like me, you're sick and tired of mock drafts and uh, looking at this prospect and that prospect and trying to figure out, what the formula is and that the Steelers use and everything. And you're just glad to get there. And please don't be afraid to join us coming up Thursday night for the regular show. We normally go at 10 p.m. Eastern, but we're going to go at 9 p.m. The first round of the draft, it'll start a little bit after 8 once they get all the pomp and circumstance out of the way. And I believe it's 10 minutes between picks. It's not as bad as it used to be, but still, it's kind of a slow evening. And so if we come on about at 9, that'll give us time to kind of go back through the picks that have already happened and then start prepping for the Steelers pick at 21. Obviously, if they should move up, then we'll jump on almost immediately and get ready for that as best that we possibly can, given whatever circumstance that is. Speaking of that, I don't anticipate a trade up this year. They don't really have the collateral to do that this particular year. I think, as I've stated numerous times, I think this year is about next year. You look at all the 1 year free agent contracts they signed. You look at the 3, perhaps 4 comp picks they're going to receive for guys that have signed elsewhere this year. It all speaks to me as an opportunity for them to move up next year, um, and hopefully grab what you can only hope is the quarterback of the future. But I'll touch on the quarterbacks potentially being drafted in this draft in just a minute. But it is what it is at this point. The Steelers have their board. They do a superb job of blowing smoke, making you think one thing, doing another. They are sometimes brutally honest, and sometimes it's so honest you can't believe it until it actually happens. But by and large, they're like most teams. They are not going to let things slip. They're going to make you think one thing and probably do something similar, if not something different. Um, I think one of my surprises for this draft, with no second round pick, it really puts a heavy emphasis on that third round pick, depending on what happens at pick 21. And what I mean by that is, if they should happen to go, let's say, let's say a running back falls to them at 21, a guy they really really like, and they know they can't get in the third round. If they choose him, now there's a little bit more pressure to get that defensive lineman that we desperately need. Okay, you are not going to survive with Keanu Benton, 36-year-old Cam Hayward, and very little else. You have to restock the defensive line, and whether they double up on this, whether they make a trade down the road, whether it's I don't know, but they've got to get better at that position. And so one of those 2 picks has to be a defensive tackle, defensive lineman. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out. And that said, you look at a guy like Nick Amon-Worry, the safety out of South Carolina, who for most people is like the top athlete in this draft. He's just phenomenal. He can do a ton of things. Built like a linebacker. And would the Steelers pass him up if he was sitting there at 21? They're very synonymous with best player available. So it would be hard to pass him up. But again, then it puts more pressure on you at a position of need, defensive line, to have to come up with some talent in that third and potentially fourth round. It's a deep defensive line class. It is. And there's going to be some talent to be had later, but you still need to try to get some top end talent as best you can. You don't want to have to rely on late round guys to plug right in and expect to start right away. Great if it happens. Great if it happens, but you can't necessarily bank on that. One other thing that I would not be surprised by is offensive line. Hear me out. On the left side, next to Zach Frazier, you've got Isaac Seumalo. He's had a little bit of injuries in his history, and he's getting on the downside of his career. On the right side, you're looking at Mason McCormick. Okay. Now, the rookie did a phenomenal job considering the situation that he was put in, having to go in and start after James Daniels went down with the season ending injury. That said, they didn't have much choice. They had to play him. Okay. Um, are they 100% certain he's their guy going forward? I don't know. And that's why I say if there is a really high quality offensive lineman, especially with versatility, guard, tackle abilities, maybe all three positions along the line, don't be surprised if they pull that trigger. There's a couple of different players out there that would fit that. And again, I would almost bank on it if Omar Khan somehow finds a way to get that second round pick back that we traded for DK Metcalf. I'm not saying we're going to draft an offensive lineman. All I am saying is do not be surprised if it happens, because let's also remember the two offensive linemen at each of the bookends, the two tackles. You've got Troy Fatanu, who essentially is a rookie. He has not played a regular season snap. And then you've got Broderick Jones, who I think many of us expect to finally settle in, play his natural left tackle after being forced to play on the right most of the time. How is that all going to work out? And if one of those top tackles is sitting there at 21, do you turn it down? I I don't know. And so again, I am not going to wager anything on this. I'm just saying don't be surprised, okay? The other thing that I wouldn't be totally surprised by is wide receiver. I think you could see literally you could see a guy like Emeka Egbuka in the first round, or you could see us not draft a wide receiver at all. And the reason I say that is strictly because of the fact that if they get offers for George Pickens that they just don't like, or if they get nothing at all, then they're going to ride with him. Okay, and then you've still got Kelvin Austin third. You've still got hopefully Roman Wilson can bounce back from his injury plagued rookie campaign, and there you've got some talent. But I think those between the lineman and the wide receiver, those are a couple of things. Just don't be surprised by. It has been really hard to ignore the fact that many of the mock drafts, and when I say the mock drafts, I'm talking about the Dane Bruglers at the Athletic and so some of the ones at NFL.com and so on and so forth. The prominent guys, the guys who put the time in, the guys who really understand this stuff. The fact that so many of them are leaning towards Shedeur Sanders at 21 to the Steelers. If you listen to the regular podcast on Thursday nights, you know that we're not really fans of his. I think in large part, it's not that he isn't a tough kid. He's a very tough kid. I mean, you won't see too many quarterbacks take the beating that he's taken the last 2 years, and he doesn't back down. He gets back up. He gets right back in the huddle. And he's got ability, okay? He's obviously got ability. But the things that bother me with him, holding the ball too long, taking too many sacks, I would also argue I don't know how big that arm really is. I don't think it's an NFL caliber arm. That doesn't mean you can't put him in a system, get the ball out quickly type stuff. And really the other thing is just as some have mentioned, and Tom Pelissaro was one at NFL.com today talking in his quarterback column, just the sense of entitlement, some of the concerns that you're getting with him. And let's also be honest, he's not the athlete many people think he should be based on his father. And speaking of his father, he's only played for his father. His dad was his offensive coordinator in high school. He coached him at Jackson. He coached him at Colorado. I mean, unless Mike Tomlin's going to hire Dion to come to Pittsburgh, I mean, what's he going to do when things aren't going well? And so that's a concern of mine. And I still believe that this, as I said in the open, this is about 2026. I don't see a reason to take a quarterback early. I don't have a problem doing it late because you need to fill out the room for this year. But I just don't see the logic of getting a guy who a year ago probably would have been the sixth or seventh quarterback off the board. Okay. I think you wait this out. The next draft class is going to be better. And you're also, as I said, you're stocking up on those picks. So that's kind of my feeling heading into this. Obviously, I think all of you know it doesn't matter who's playing for the Steelers. You root for them, whether it's the guy you hate the most. It doesn't matter. You root for the name on the front, not the name on the back. At least it should be that way. So we'll be excited about whoever it is that's going to be joining our team and talk you through it. So we'll be with you Thursday night, and then we'll probably be right back with you on Friday night as well during the second and third rounds. And yeah, check us out. Check the YouTube page out. Check out the socials. And of course, check out SteelCityBlitz.com. We've got a ton of great draft coverage that's up there right now. And I think that'll do it for tonight. I hope everybody is enjoying spring, and I hope you are all ready for the NFL draft. And as always, go Steelers.